Mike Neville, where do we even start with this? We've been putting more people behind bars when they finally do go to court and then finally do get convicted. Some of them are spending longer behind bars and people aren't being released early as much. So we need more prison places, but we don't have them. How did this come about?
It's, as you've indicated, it's a complete failure of the political class on every side. I mean, you have the Home Secretary is very right to say, oh, the police detecting only 5% of crime is completely unacceptable. But what if they start detecting 10% of crime and twice as many criminals are put before the courts? There seems to be no joined up thinking between, as you say, several departments, the Home Office responsible for the police or the Justice Department responsible for the prisons. And you had the ridiculous sight of a Conservative minister claiming that this was the fault of the last Labour administration, which is 13 years ago. Now, in August, we had a situation where they were saying, oh, it's 99% full for men and 96% for women. You would think that somebody would grab hold of this and say, right, what is going to happen here? What's the plan? Where have we got these extra places? I mean, you've got the Portland Harbour, that boat still floating around there, as I understand it. You've got old police stations, which have got loads of cells in them, as well as the magistrates' courts, you say. I mean, I would personally, if you remember the old film The Dirty Dozen, they had to build a prison before they could sleep in it. So perhaps we could do that.
Well, the thing is, we don't have enough prison officers even for the prison places we've got right now. One of the big issues I really have with our prison system, I mean, it's so antiquated, but we've got prisoners who are just basically go into prison and they just sit in their cells 23 hours a day. They're not getting educated. They're sitting around on drugs. People are going in on drugs, illiterate. Of course, what a surprise. They come out a few months or a few years later. What do? They go straight back to reoffending because that's all they know. We've not done anything to tackle it in between. That costs money, it costs resources, and we haven't put anything into that. But even on the most basic level, just dangerous people or people who refuse to abide by the rules we've established, which is you don't take other people's stuff or violent criminals, those people can't be put in prison as of Monday. This is what Lord Justice Edis, the senior presiding judge for England and Wales, has ordered to all Crown Court judges. Would you mind not actually coming to the sentencing of these people? If they're already on bail, we're going to keep them out on bail because we haven't got anywhere to put them. That is untenable.
Absolutely. I mean, and what they'll say as well, they'll come out with some rubbish, like, oh, they've been tagged or given bail conditions. Well, we know that criminals cut off these tags and the like, or they find ways around it. Yeah. And there's simply not enough police officers to enforce bail conditions. So they say you've got to stay in your house at night or whatever else. Who is actually going to check that? And I remember the time when Ken Clarke, allegedly a Tory big beast, he was in charge of the prisons and then decided, saved on his budget to let people out early without thinking what impact that has on the police who have to catch these people again, or more importantly, the community, the little people who have to suffer the wickedness of these rapists, burglars, robbers, drug dealers and the like. It is just completely unacceptable, and it shows a case of broken Britain. We've got the wrong people in politics. It's too full of the wrong people who are just ambitious for their own wicked ends and not serving the people, and they have failed utterly on this.
And this is the thing, isn't it? This has been a long time coming. I think it's one thing, isn't it, blaming the Labour government on this one. This comes as a result of massive cuts to the justice budget, I think about 20-25% since 2010. We saw basically barristers going out on strike, basically we're done now. We're being paid sort of basically, £5 an hour to carry out these cases after many, many years of training. We're not willing to do it anymore. We haven't got enough judges. They can't hire enough judges. We haven't had courts sitting. I mean, basically for a couple of years we had very minimal cases coming in. I was involved in as a juror on a case earlier this year, and it was a case that had first been brought to the attention of the police in 2018, and it was coming to court in 2023. That justice delayed is justice denied, as we know. But there have been so many issues that have been coming for a long time. A lot of it is money, and we have to accept that a lot of it is money. How much are we willing to spend on this? Criminal justice systems cost a lot of money and they take a lot of time. You can't just sort of click a switch and say, oh, good, now we have a prison place for another 2,000 people. That's not how it works. But, I mean, How do we resolve
But it's
this?
not like that. It isn't like that, Julia, is it? Because they sort of get to 99% full, and then, oh my God,
There's a problem.
There's an absolute drought. That's the issue. If they were saying at 80% full, that we really need help, they spoke to the people, look, we're going to have to do radical things to sort this out. But they don't. They get to, these are people who allegedly are able to plan for the nation, and they get to 99%. But one thing I must take you up on is the £5 for lawyers. I've never met a poor lawyer ever in my life.
No, the barristers in the early years, your later years, you're going to be earning decent money. In the early years, when they're doing the pro bono stuff or the legal aid stuff, they are paid an absolute bit. They're on like 12 grand a year. And I'm sorry, that is not what we should be paying people who are basically in charge of trying to, keep someone out of jail. Sorry, that's not good enough.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm being facetious, but the facts of these, as we've seen with this is just failing the community. And what people see all the time is knee-jerk reactions, not sorting it out. 13 years is a long time. In my view, from August, if you knew there was drama in August 2 months ago, there's things you could do about this. There are, former army camps and whatever else. You could do emergency.
But again, why are we doing... We're a first world country. Why is everything being done as a last-minute emergency when it's complete? It was predicted and predictable. Stay there for us, Mike, because I want to bring in Charlie Rowley, who's a former government advisor. One of the people who advises was Michael Gove. He was Justice Secretary, went through a whole raft of jobs at one point. I mean... You've worked in government. How are these decisions not made or delayed so long that they wait for there to be a crisis?
Well, that is the most brilliant question, which is why you see so many crises.
Is there a brilliant answer?
Well, there are two things. I mean, you hit the nail perfectly on the head when you talked about the reoffending rates. And, going to prison seems to be a revolving door of people that don't get the rehabilitation that they need. They then go back into society, they commit more crimes, or they become even more criminal by being in prison because the system isn't working. You don't have the prison guards or the numbers to, provide that sort of help and aid in prison.
You need fewer prison officers if they're just sitting in their cells for 23 hours a day.
Exactly. And we saw only just a few weeks ago what happens when you have an overcrowded prison population in Wandsworth with the escapee of Daniel Cleave that was able to just,
But why is the crucial? We know all those problems though. Why is the government why is this government, all these different prime ministers we've had, why are they so incapable of taking long-term decisions, foreseeing a problem that is not only coming down the road, but is a direct result of a policy announcement they have made and implemented?
Well, it will be. I mean, I can only assume.
They're just incompetent.
Well, I think it may be a breakdown in communication, certainly from those on the ground, those that are probably, at their wits' end in prisons, saying to the MOJ that, we've got real problems here, we're overcrowded, we're going to be...
No, but you could predict it from the policy. You make that policy announcement, so you've got special advisors like you saying, well, if you do that, we're going to need more prison places. Or did no one have that conversation, in which case everyone needs to be sacked?
Well, you're absolutely... I mean, it would be... if I was going into the MOJ today and, I would be probably been told last week, actually, if you ask the question, if you're a special advisor, you would ask the question, where are we with prison population numbers? You would be given maybe all kinds of suggestions to say, yes, they're at the higher end, but don't worry, because we've got X amount going on.
My secret worry is, I think no one working in the Ministry of Justice actually thinks prison is something that's a good thing and it works. Let me come back to Mike Neville. As a former DCI, Mike, there's a story today, the police across England and Wales are voting in a ballot on whether or not they should get the right to strike. They're fighting to have that right. They, like soldiers, don't have that right to strike. Should police officers be able to strike to get better pay and conditions?
No. I'm quite old-fashioned on this. I was a soldier and I was a police officer. My wife and daughter are nurses. And in my view, once you commit to those kind of careers, it is service before self, which is the motto of the British Legion. There should be no strikes. You don't join those jobs to earn money. You earn those jobs to help people, to serve your community, to serve your country. There should be no strikes at all. It's just unforgivable in my view. And every time I walk by a war memorial, I sort of shake my head at the sacrifice of those generations and what they must see now, because it's no longer service before self. It is now self before service, and we live in a very poor nation because of that.
And yet many police officers say they're very unhappy with how they're treated, their pay and conditions, and they want better ones. They feel they're not going to get them unless they can withdraw their labour. But I don't suppose we as a country can't afford for them to withdraw their labour, because the police are already picking up the slack from everybody else.
Well, when you join the police, you know what you're going to get paid. You're never going to be a millionaire.
Oh, but no. They knew that, but they didn't predict losing the real terms pay as they've done over recent years with higher inflation. Same as NHS workers and all the rest of us.
I can be absolutely. I'm just I have no truck with it at all. I won't change my position. You shouldn't go on strike. I understand when police officers say we're not carrying weapons anymore because one of our colleagues has been charged with murder, which is an outrage, because that's a choice to carry those weapons. When you join the police, it's not like the army where you know you're going to have to carry a weapon. So I understand that position completely, and I support those officers in that. Okay. But if you join the police, you become a nurse, a doctor, fireman, or whatever else, something like that, your duty is to the community, not to yourself. That's it. Okay, Mike Neville, former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector, thank you so much.